Do you like to break me down when I'm shattered on the ground? Are you happy? Are you happy? All I wanted was your love. Was I asking for too much? Are you happy? Are you happy? Do you like to break me down when I'm shattered on the ground? Are you happy? Are you happy? All I wanted was your love. Was I asking for too much? Are you happy? Are you happy? You break me down off the ground. You happy? You happy?
Hello my soul family, welcome to the Love Show for October of 2021. My name is Christy Ramirez and I am a soul coach and I'm a motivational speaker as well, and I am the host of this monthly show. Now this is a show that's provided by my Spiritual Counseling TV network, and what we talk about in this show is spiritual love. We talk about where the spiritual lovers are at, what spiritual love is, and how you can attract this kind of highest vibrational kind of love into your life. And I know that everyone wants this because this is innately as humans what we all desire and crave: a spiritual love bond and being in union in this physical realm. And so the theme that I came up with for this month of October 2021 is this the one or just another flame? And I know that this is a cliche quote, but it couldn't be further from the truth. It's just the energy that I'm feeling. I was getting this message actually since the beginning of the month, and now we're like a little over half the month way through, and this message resonates. So I know that this is the message because I was even hesitant to come up with this cliche quote as our theme for this month. But God really wanted me to talk about this, our romance angels as well. And there's a lot to talk about when it comes to spiritual love, the one, or is it just another flame? Meaning, is it just another affair, just another crush, just another lover, just another relationship? Because remember, even though you might be in a relationship with someone, it doesn't entitle that to be the one and the highest spiritual love kind of bond, right? There's so many factors that come into play as we live this human life. And especially if a person is still stuck in the 3D mentality, it can really block them from seeing beyond the veil of illusion and seeing the truth. Whether this is a partner who is just meant to teach you a lesson, which that kind of partnership has many labels. It can be a soul teacher, a karmic partner, meaning you just need karma to play out, like a soul teacher, right? You have lessons to learn together. Or it can be a soulmate that's meant to be in your life for a short period of time, like having this companion, this friendship. That's the kind of relationship that I had once, and it just doesn't last because there's just something that will make you go your separate ways, and you might end on good terms or you might not. And the one is that partner who's gonna be with you till the very end, both in the physical realm but also on a spiritual level. So chances are that if you're already awakened at this higher dimension, you've already known who your spiritual lover is in the spiritual energy, meaning you already feel your spiritual other half. Okay, it doesn't mean that you know who it is in the physical realm, but on a spiritual level, this is like inside your soul, you are already one. And this is where I'm getting at. This spiritual love comes from within. It's like the yin and the yang. And I do want to explain this because even there, a lot of people get confused about what a spiritual love is. And some people just don't want to accept the truth or get triggered when they kind of sway off their expectations of what they thought was a spiritual love. And God wants to illuminate us today, wants to set things clear, to really teach us what the spiritual love is and how we can reach it. Because that is another part of this truth. The only way to reach this spiritual love partnership in physicality, in union for others to see, is that you need to be at that level first, meaning healed from the inside out. You need to have transcended human distortions. You need to have ascended spiritually. And that is actually the theme for the fashion show of October 2021 as well. The light workers who have been doing the work are undergoing an intense spiritual ascension. And this is what's going to bring you closer to the spiritual love. So this is good for those of you who have been doing the work. If you're just waking up to this kind of love, start from the beginning with these series, the Love Show series, which began in January of 2021. To be more specific, with the New Year's special. There's one prior to the January. Definitely begin from the beginning and start watching these, because God has been slowly giving us guidance on how to reach this spiritual love, slowly climbing these stairs of ascension through the Love Show and the Fashion Show. And this is a show that's absolutely free, because God knows that this is a collective message that people need to listen to. It's going to make the world a better place, starting with you. You need to make yourself a better person first, and not just in the physical realm, meaning reputation or where you're at financially or socially, because those are superficial ways of rising. I'm talking about the deep spiritual work that happens from deep within. And that's true independence, that's true ascension, that's true evolution, the soul evolution. And that's what God wants us to focus on, not so much on the material realm, because that will come naturally as you focus on your spiritual nature, on your spiritual evolution. So wonderful way to begin today's talk. Let me be having a sip of coffee with all of you, definitely. This is a moment where, we gather for coffee. It's my favorite time of the month to be here. And we got pumpkin spice for this month of October. All right, so let's talk, before we get to our oracle reading, which I do always do this on these. It's like a tarot show in a way, but a spiritual tarot show, right? Because remember that for me, tarot is more about the artwork that really, really catches my eye. And I can read through art. So every time, I get different visions, I get different interpretations. But at the end of the day is what we need to hear that day, this divine message from God. So God wants me to explain, first of all, this concept of spiritual love. Now, spiritual love, like I say, is not a physical person, a physical face. Sometimes we can misplace that and think that someone in particular is our spiritual lover, our other half, our one, right? Because either we want to believe it, or maybe you're just attached to that person because maybe there is no other person in your life, right? And that usually happens when there's a romantic connection, there's perhaps a chemistry. Remember that just because you have a chemistry, that doesn't even determine whether it's your spiritual lover or not. Because as humans, we are all made of sexual energy. And sexual energy is just innately part of who we all are. We are sensual beings. And it's just natural as human beings who are reproductive beings as well to have sexual chemistry with the opposite gender, with the opposite sex, right? And that's what's called, you can say it's a crush, but it can also be a soulmate. It can be just someone that you come across that maybe you've had a past life connection with, and that's why you resonate with them. Maybe that's why you feel like you know them, because there is a past life relationship. Maybe in a past life you were together and you remember through each other's soul. Remember, the eyes are the windows to your soul. And maybe, you catch each other eye to eye, and then you start getting all these downloads, these feelings, these revelations, and these memories, perhaps of a past life relationship that you had. And this can bring up confusion, right? Because maybe you think that's your spiritual lover because the energy is so strong, the connection is so strong. And that happens in soulmate relationships as well. Remember that soulmate relationships actually are more friendship based. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be a sexual chemistry, a romantic connection. A soulmate can even be a family member. It can be a best friend. It can be a teacher, a mentor. So soulmates come in different forms. So this is where now we are clearing the slate here about these labels. But I'm talking about your like other half, like your twin, right? There's this other term that's also put about the twin flame term. And this is the kind of relationship that we are talking about, right? It's the one that is literally the other half of your soul. And you might be very similar in nature, but there's also differences, because at the end of the day, even then, we are our own character, our own personality, our own person, right? But there's just this something that is just like on fire, like everything is just perfectly fit together. It's the perfect match made in heaven. You are both on the same mission. You both like to do the same things. You both have the same values. You both think alike. These are kind of qualities that will determine whether it's the partner for you, right? Your soulmate, spiritual other, okay? Their friendship, of course, has to be there. But when it comes to the actual one, it's just like even a spiritual connection is there, which you will not feel with other kind of partners, okay? The spiritual connection is just from the inside out. It's like you can have dreams with them. You start to have spiritual experiences after you meet. These are the kind of things that will let you know whether it's your spiritual partner or not. And I do feel like there's another kind of key flag that's going to let you know that this is the partner for you. This is about seeing the long-term vision together, okay? Because sometimes when you come across a soul teacher or a karmic partner, usually in those scenarios, it's usually because you're both trying to heal something together. And that usually doesn't end up right? Because if you start to bond for the wrong reasons, what makes you think that something beautiful is going to thrive out of that situation, right? So it's kind of like, let's say that both of them are grieving over a loss, or maybe they just went through breakups from a past partner, and now they're both trying to mend their heart by being together. That is not an environment to thrive, right? An environment to thrive, meaning it needs to stem from pure love. It needs to be from an innocent, genuine intention. It just needs to be true. Soulmates are that friend as well that can also come in your life when you are at a low point, when you are grieving as well, the loss of someone or something. And they're usually there to help you in some way. So that's like a mentor, a teacher. And yes, your romantic partner can be that too, your friend, your mentor, your teacher. But then that just tells you that it's not really the ultimate highest romantic kind of relationship. Because the sexual chemistry in these situations might actually come as a result of the intimacy and the friendship, not first the passion and the sexual chemistry. And for the karmic situation, it usually happens later as well. It develops. So that is also another key flag in distinguishing the one between soulmates and soul teachers, is that the sexual passionate relationship, which is actually the most powerful force, because it's like this cosmic orgasm that in Tantra philosophy it teaches us. It's something more than the physical bond together. It's like the Kundalini rising, but it's there even without the actual sexual act. And that is this one-of-a-kind love that we are talking about here. This doesn't come around just like that, and it's very rare, right, to find your actual one in this lifetime. And it's kind of like love at first sight, you can say. But that's also a little bit incorrect, because it is a recognition at first sight, you can say, more than anything. You recognize them as being the other half of your soul, that missing piece to your life, to your puzzle. And it's just like you are one with them. You see yourself in them. That is when it's your one. So there's a lot of similarities between twins, right? Between these two ones that belong together. And the sexual chemistry is just like on fire from day one, because it's like this magnetism that is wanting to bring them together. And you can kind of compare this like to the classic stories, you know, movies, dramas, and books all have truth in them, because it's artists who write them, who create those movies, those books, right? And when these writers were channeling the books of the sagas of Twilight and the series of 50 Shades of Grey, what do you think that they were channeling? They were channeling this kind of twin flame love. And is just so powerful. And you know, I've always just been so attracted to those series and kind of movies. You know, I remember 10 years ago when Twilight came out, I was absolutely obsessed with those books. I read them like twice. I even remember to this day the experience that I was having while I was reading those books. I was a young girl reading and just so intrigued by this kind of love. And then a few years later, when 50 Shades came up, I was a more grown young woman. So of course I was just more aware of the sexuality, because in Twilight, believe it or not, sexuality is actually not a main theme. So you see how this kind of love transitions, because this kind of one relationship, this spiritual love relationship, needs to have both components. It needs to have the purity of Edward and Bella, this friendship, this just gentleness that Edward had with Bella, that he didn't want to corrupt her, he didn't want to turn her into a vampire, because he wanted to keep her as she was. He loved and accepted her for who she was, a fragile human, right? That's what she was to him, because he was basically an untouchable vampire at that moment. He had eternity as a human, not as a human, but as a vampire, right? And he didn't want to bring any corruption towards her. He didn't want to taint her beautiful angelic energy. And this is the kind of love that this needs to have, right? This kind of quality and dimension to it. But it also needs to have this passion chemistry that Christian Grey and Anastasia Steele had, right? It was just like inseparable, and it was undeniable and unbearable, right? This kind of sexual energy and passion between them, because that's another thing. The passion is what actually even brings passion back into your life. It reignites you, it rebirths you as a soul from the inside out. This kind of love can bring a lot of vitality and healing on a personal level, believe it or not. And this is why love is so healing, right? Love is the highest vibrational kind of energy ever. Love heals. Jesus Christ knew this. He was all about unconditional love, and this love is most definitely unconditional, ever forgiving, compassionate, non-judgmental, and just pure love. And Jesus comes through today to tell us that he is healing this dynamic between these spiritual lovers. And he's also saying that the reason why they are coming together, because this is happening, this union is happening, this sacred union is being blessed by God, and God wants these partners to come together, because this is for the bigger picture, the bigger mission, the golden era coming. These are these power couples that are gonna rise within these next few years. In this next decade, these power couples are gonna set the way for future generations, for this new earth, this new world that we are entering. It's so much golden, high vibrational energy, so much abundance that's gonna come with this as well, as the years start opening up more opportunities, as the world starts to heal from this tragic time that we've all been through. This is a tragic moment in history, but these power couples are also going to make history for the light, and that's what we need to remember today. This is about these light workers and the partners coming together, like the superhero partners coming together. And so this is a beautiful energy, wonderful way to begin today. Now I definitely want to get to the reading. You know, as you all like to, you already know, I love to bring Botticelli, which is my favorite artist ever from the Renaissance time. And this is one of his paintings from that age, is the birth of Venus, because it's the birth of this innocent, vulnerable love, because this love will make you feel vulnerable. Because yes, we've all been hurt in the past, and many times when we do meet that one, believe it or not, it's actually at the very end, after you've already been through so much trauma, so much failed relationships, people who have hurt or betrayed you or deceived you. And then it's like at this moment that you meet your actual one, your heart is already closed off and you are afraid to trust again. And this love will break your heart back open, meaning that it's gonna just heal it, mend it back together, because love is real. Just because it didn't work out in the past, it's just because it wasn't the one. And we should be grateful for that, because imagine that we would have still stayed with someone who wasn't the one. How miserable would that be? Because believe it or not, when it's not your one, as much as people want to deny this, they're not going to really truly be happy. They might fake happiness, they might settle because they have ties together, whether that be family ties, financial ties, children ties, but really deep in their soul, they're not happy. And that's a very sad story, because you see a lot of people who are stuck in the 3D human world living that reality. And I can't express my sadness for that, because I always innately was always very intuitive from a young age, and I never settled into something that I knew wasn't for me. And maybe that's why I've been alone so long, because I just knew that it didn't vibrate. And I was reading Twilight and 50 Shades, and just nothing compared to that kind of love. And that's what we're waiting for. And remember that great love is worth waiting for, even if it means being single and alone for a while, and even celibate, because remember that this sacred love will not accept anything that's not pure. You need to be in a pure state to be able to receive this and be blessed by God with this. By you making your amends, clearing and purifying your soul and your actual physical body, which is your temple, that is going to come in union with your sacred partner. You need to be clean spiritually of all the energies from the past. And that's definitely a big guidance for anyone who is in the situation. And this takes time. Okay, I'm telling you, time. And I know that people don't like to hear this word time, but it's just the only way. There needs to be this solitude work done on a solo level, meaning no energies in your life, not even just as a friend or anything like that, because that will taint the healing that's happening. Believe it or not, whether you want to accept it or not, whether it's a relationship or not, you need to be purely alone. And I'm not saying that you need to live a hermit life, right, like most masters like to do. Actually, that's kind of like a part of my life. I've actually kind of just like not found what I was looking for in kind of like just being around just the mundane all the time. That I actually spent a lot of time on my own, but it's illuminated me to the truth. It's enlightened me, you can say. And God is telling me to tell you that a period of your life in this state of solitude is not going to hurt you, is not going to kill you, and in fact is going to benefit you. So take this lesson today and let us get to our reading now. All right. And today I'm bringing an extra gift for you all, a little extra treat, which is my Sexual Magic Tarot. We are entering Scorpio season actually as I am filming this today. This is Friday, October 22nd, which is 10/22, which I think is the number of partnership, spiritual love, unions happening. And it's the completion of any karmic cycles. You see number 10. So numerology is really wanting to speak to us today. This is a new beginning for these spiritual lovers, this new cycle that we're stepping into this weekend. And this is Scorpio season that we're entering, which is all about passion, all about sexual energy as well. So like this sexy time, this sexual chemistry that brings these spiritual lovers together, and the passion that keeps it alive for the long term, right? Because it's not something about just having it just for momentary. It's about expanding it for the long term, for the rest of your life, having a beautiful family life together, a beautiful life together, right? A heaven on earth life together. So let's begin with our messages. Let's begin with Botticelli. I am excited. And I do feel like communication is coming in as well, because remember, communication is key to any relationship, right? If this doesn't exist, then how is this partnership gonna work? So definitely expect communication in whatever way that means to you. Maybe we get that sometimes in the spiritual realms, but I do feel like this needs to happen also in the physical realm, because God didn't make this love so that it's just in the spiritual realm, right? It's also so that we can anchor it into this physical realm and set an example for humans, right? For everyone, the collective basically, right? And I'm not saying that light workers are not human, but they're on a spiritual kind of higher level, you can say, obviously, right? Like an ascended master, like Jesus who walked the earth. The Buddhas, remember the Buddha's not a person, but anyone who is on this path to enlightenment, they are on an above level than just your regular human being living the regular life, because they see beyond. They see from a higher perspective. They're living from a higher dimension. So it's of course a different experience. And so there is much more respect required on that level, because we are bearers of truth and we are speaking only love, light, and illumination. that is gonna create healing, set the way for the evolution of human life, right? Because remember, this is the whole experiment that I actually talked about in my Cosmic Consciousness show. What is the purpose of being here as a human? You think it's just to live a life and enjoy the pleasures of this world? That's the cherry on top of the cake. But the real purpose why we're here, not only to learn lessons, yes, that's one of the reasons, but it's also to evolve, okay? Because the higher beings who live outside of Earth and God himself, the whole purpose, this is like an experiment that we are under basically, and we are being examined by these higher beings. The experiment is for us to be able to evolve on our own to higher dimensions, okay, without the help from outside help. Okay, so I know that sounds confusing, but these higher beings, they're obviously, you know, at a higher dimension, meaning they experience telepathy, they can, you know, have like these crazy dimensions and like, should I say visions. They can just do things that just a regular person who's asleep wouldn't, right? And the test, many people are already on this level, but many people are still hiding in the closet, you can say. But it's, the experiment is for everyone, hence the new earth, to be able to evolve to this state. And this now can kind of turn into a different conversation, because this is now a cosmic conversation talking about life outside of earth. But it really does even influence the spiritual love dynamic, right? Because this is one of the purposes of this. And this is why these spiritual lovers will experience things that they will not experience with just a classic, just regular lover. This is something abnormal and unreal, but it is real, ironically, okay? I know that sounds poetic, but it's the truth. And you know, many poets did talk about this kind of love, which we're actually learning in my weekly poetry class. Believe it or not, Shakespeare was very, very awakened to this love. That's all he talked about. And that's what he channeled with Romeo and Juliet. And it was the cosmic love. And they died together and they were reunited after, in the afterlife. Because again, I know I'm divulging so much information now, but God wants me to kind of teach you guys everything. And these little pieces that we learn from my School of Life, putting it all together. You know, even the ancient Egyptians, what do you think they dedicated most of their waking life to? They dedicated all their wealth to their grave, basically. They were more hyperly focused on the afterlife than enjoying this life on earth, because they already were aware that this life on earth was but a school, a lesson, and a test for where they were going to go in the afterlife. Down there, purgatory, or heaven. And this is what we talk about in the love show. There's a whole month, it was the April fashion show, that I talked about these different levels of purgatory according to Dante's comedy, who was also a poet, and he talked about this in the Renaissance era. And coincidentally, you know, in the Renaissance era is where all the spiritual knowledge was being channeled through art, poetry, books, paintings on the walls, in the cathedrals, right, in the roofs, the angelic paintings that they were all always painting. And it was during that era that actually spirituality was being persecuted, the people who were spiritual and talking about it, because there was truth to that. And there was a lot of fear in the political arena, you can say, during that time. Remember, back then politics was kingdoms, and it was like more hierarchy based than government, right? The government back then was like the French court, the castles, the kingdoms, king and queens. So enough of that. Let's get to our spiritual guidance for today. But interesting conversation, right? All right, so we got 3 cards today, and we got the Knave of Swords in reverse. So this is kind of like, this is what's lacking, this communication of truth. Because swords do represent truths, intellectuality. Maybe there's like too much overthinking on the divine masculine side, because this is the divine masculine here, and we see the divine feminine here actually spreading her wings and flying, and absolutely healed in her heart. She is the love and the light, spreading her wings and just sharing it. That's a beautiful energy of where the divine feminine is at. 6 of Wands, which will lead her to victory. This is the victory card. And the masculine is a little bit still reserved with his speech, his communication, because of the past pain. 6 of Swords, past hurts, past deceptions. But he sees that there is a fresh new start, a ship that is wanting to set sail for a new future, a new start. And so that's a beautiful message. And we got the Judgment card in reverse, which is about Judgment Day. But since it's in the reverse, maybe there's just, I want to see actually what it means in this deck, the Judgment card in reverse. So you should have the booklet. Let's get a little bit more intellectual today. And it is a major arcana, so this is like the main energy for today. The sentence, analysis, soul searching. This is what's needed. More soul searching, inner healing work, you see. And awareness and reawakening of this love. And this can also be an unfavorable moment getting from separation, maybe repentance from the past, regrets, or doubts about this love. That's what's setting these partners back if they're not in union. And again, many people are not in union. This is like 2020 energy, 2020 here, this number. And I feel as we enter 2021, which is the World card, success, this is the coming together eventually, right? After a promotion, accomplishments, maybe needing to be overcome, obstacles needing to be overcome from any setbacks. And then let's get more energy. Let's get more guidance. The Fool card. So there is, and it's in Spanish it says el loco, which means crazy. I feel like this is how the divine masculines are crazy, are craving and also feeling towards like their other spiritual lover. It's kind of like they're making them, it's making them feel like a fool in a way, because it's something we've never experienced. And same on the divine feminine side, right? Because this kind of love will make you feel like maybe even you're going crazy in a way, because it's something that you've never felt before. And there's very few people out there who have had this experience, but there are people who are still in union. You know, these are the partners who have been for years and years together and they're still in love together. Okay, I'm not talking about the people who have been years together just because of some convenience. I'm talking about the people who are still crazy in love about each other. And the image I'm getting right now is that movie scene from The Notebook when they were young kids and Noah was leaving Allie back at her house when she was just a girl, and they were in his truck and they were like kissing and making love in there, and they were just absolutely crazy about each other. They couldn't get their hands off each other, right? This is what we're talking about. This is that kind of love. And look what happened in the story. You know, years later, even though they both had to experience their own soul searching journey, and they even were with different partners, at the end of the day, like it was like a decade later, 10 years later, they were brought back together by the universe because they were meant to be together. They were just needing to grow up during those years. But when they came back together, it was forever. Because I think that if they would have stayed together from a young age, they wouldn't have evolved to their fullest potential. Because she had to go to school and he was still growing up. He went to the military and that made him a man. And her living her life made her a woman. So they were together as a girl and a boy, young, and then they ended up together years later as a grown woman and a grown man in union, ready to do great things in the world as a power couple. And that is powerful, right? Because that's what love does to you. And this is the great love that we're talking about. And I think it's so beautiful that, you know, it was him that wrote that story about their love. Or maybe it was her, I'm not quite sure, but I think it was her. And he read it to her every day when they were older. And that's just beautiful. And look at this, the final card that I open up here is the Nine of Wands. And this is like the movement of forward, coming forward, divine masculine coming forward, chivalrous, because that's what the horse represents. Very chivalrous, a gentleman, and letting go of the pride and ego, and just allowing himself to be himself, naked and vulnerable, metaphorically, before his other half, his spiritual lover, his divine feminine. The divine masculine has really grown up after years and years of soul searching, soul evolution, right? That's kind of like, you know, at the end of your life journey, imagine coming out the other side, the light at the end of the tunnel, and then coming face to face with your spiritual lover. That's kind of like what I'm feeling. It's like finally this marriage energy. It's the wedding time. And the reason is because, you know, we've had a long journey of living life on our own. And I can tell you that I'm at this point in my life. I've lived a long life already, I feel, even though I'm still young. I feel like these past 10 years have been like the most growing up years of my life. And there's just a lot that I've learned that it's made me into another person. And that is where the lovers are at. They are now living their true self, right? There's no more learning. I mean, there's always learning, but there's not necessarily growing up to do anymore, you see, because you already grown into who you're meant to be, all right? And that's when you're ready for the spiritual love. When you're already grown into who you're meant to be. You're not still discovering who you are. You're not insecure about who you are. You value yourself. You're the most confident you've ever been in your life. And you accept yourself for who you are, and you don't compare yourself to others, because you know your value, your worth, and your own unique self, your talents, your gifts that you have to offer to the world. And that's what makes you beautiful from the inside out, makes you radiate and glow. And that's a beautiful energy. Let's close these cards up and let us open now the Sexual Magic Tarot to end today's show. Alright, so let's get some sexy energy here today. Right away, there's a lot of talking in here. Wow, we actually got a little bit of a jealous energy in the Tower card, and there's kind of like this jealousy in a way, because that's the thing about this spiritual love, right? That ignites this passion. What is the opposite of love is hate, and the opposite of hate is love, right? And the opposite of passion is indifference, okay? Hate and love are both passionate emotions. And if there's just indifference, there's no emotion there, meaning there's just no connection. You don't care because you don't really care. You're not in love with that person. And I'm not saying that this love brings out hate, but it will bring out anger because you don't want them to be with anybody else. So this is just a reminder from God, from heaven, to kind of hurry, because it's not like this is going to wait forever, right? You know, people grow and age, and even though we can age younger, the point is that life runs out, meaning that life, when you're having fun, goes away, and we need to make the most of it now, not wait, right? So whatever's holding these spiritual lovers back, it's time to move forward towards it, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, basically, right? And 2020 has taught us that huge message, that lesson, because there's just no time to waste. And so this is a very interesting card.